just doing a AMA, Ask Me Anything. I'm also going to talk about the hackathon that's happening over at the Practical Data Community. So if you haven't heard of the Practical Data Community, it sort of accidentally spun off the book I'm currently writing, which is called Mixed Model Arts. The title is Practical Data Modeling. And the Practical Data Community really spun off as a result of that book. I was finding a way just to, especially for paid subscribers, to have a chance to chat, and ended up starting a Discord group, and that blew up. So you're probably wondering about this hackathon that we're doing. Well, in classic nature, the Practical Data Community, it's a fun place. I would say it's a great place. You can have very intelligent discussions about data, about AI, about software engineering, et cetera, et cetera. One of I think the things that differentiates it from other places is it's, we can be a bit unhinged sometimes, right? So I think that in my case it's a plus in the sense where people just have the freedom to talk about things that they otherwise wouldn't be able to talk to at work. I tend to be very hands off on topics as long as they're not horribly offensive or gross. And so what happens is we tend to joke that all the every discussion tends to veer towards something a bit unhinged at some point, in a good way, obviously, right? But there's a bit element of silliness to it. And a month or two ago, I was thinking, wouldn't it be kind of fun to do like an unhinged AI vibe coding hackathon, right? So yeah, so we're gonna have some themes here. Uh, basically coding sort of along the lines of using vibe coding to create stuff that really should not exist at all, in a humorous way, of course. Just coming up with some of the dumbest things you could possibly think of using AI vibe coding, and so that's one of the goals. The hackathon will start Friday. I'm going to kick things off, I think, around 9 a.m. Mountain Time. There's a page I'll be posting very soon, probably today, about it. So all the times will be in Mountain Time because that's where I live. I'm sure if you can attend an AI vibe coding hackathon, I'm sure you can figure out how to translate time zones. So that's going to be the gist of it, right? It goes starts Friday morning. It goes to Sunday, kind of mid morning my time at least. And so that's going to be the name of the game. So we're going to give you a whole weekend to build. You can do it solo, but I prefer that you find teams. Use the fact that you have globally distributed people to help kind of share the work, right? So find somebody in Europe, find somebody in Asia, find somebody in North America, whatever, right? Or just pop lots of Adderall and stay up the entire time. I don't really care. Uh, so, but I think that's going to be sort of the name of the game. There is just you know creating fun stuff with AI. Now the rule is you have to use AI vibe coding tools. You can't just do things by hand because that's old fashioned. Why do that? That's you're not Amish, right? You're not uh, you know we're vibe coders now. We're all just you know unthinking. We don't even know how to code anymore. We just hit return on Claude Code and let it do its thing. We just prompt. I guess that's what we are, right? So yes, that's the nature of this upcoming event. So if you have questions, feel free to drop it. I'll be posting more on it today. There's a whole page that I have typed up in Notion that some people know about, but I'm going to publicize it because why not? So that's the gist of the hackathon, right? Let's build a bunch of just really crazy, funny, unhinged things. Why not? The link will be posted shortly. Stay tuned for that. I'll post it to Substack, I'll post it to Discord, and I'll post it to places like LinkedIn. So just kind of giving you the lay of the land right now to it, partly because I haven't finished writing the page yet. So, yeah. So anyway, a lot of the management of the hackathon will be done within the Discord group. There'll be lots of channels dedicated to it. So my suggestion is go sign up over at the Practical Data Discord. I will put this in the links here. Let me just get an invite for y'all. Because I'm that kind of guy who shows up really prepared for stuff like this. Here's a link to the Practical Data Discord. Go sign up. Make a friend. Make a lot of friends that didn't seem to appear for some reason anyway. Um, I'll post it again and see what happens. There, whatever. Subtext comments kind of suck anyway. So if you find it, great. If not, whatever. But I would say just Google practical data if you want to put my name on it. But the Discord group will be there. Otherwise, like I said, I'm going to be posting things very shortly. So don't worry about it. But yeah, anyway, this is also an AMA. If you have questions related to the hackathon or anything in general, life, career, whatever, probably can offer you relationship advice. But anything apart from that, I can give you really bad relationship advice actually if you'd like. So you can feel free to ask about that too. The advice is worth the price you pay for it. So, what's up, Jordan? How you doing, man? Jordan was on my podcast a few weeks ago. Go check it out. He also has a great Substack. He gives a lot of great advice on data teams and data engineering and a lot of hard-won battles that you'd only really write about if you've, I think, past the plateau of not being jaded on stuff. So, or being jaded on stuff, I guess. So, yeah, I noticed with content, it's kind of funny. People start off writing, they're always eager. They always want to write the tutorials, technical tutorials and stuff. Then I think once they start working in the field, it just inevitably gravitates towards everything except the technology. Because I think at that point you kind of realize that technology, while important, if you're running a data team, or a team in general, definitely I stay up on tech, but humans are harder. Humans are way more difficult. Pradeep asks, I'm starting to learn data engineering in 2025. He's from India. A really confusing look at all of the information tools. Should I read your book first? I think you should read my book while you start delving into popular tools, right? So by popular tools in tech, what I'd recommend is here's the deal. Like my book tends to be the book I wrote with Matt Housley, Fundamentals of Data Engineering. We took a technology agnostic approach because we wanted to write a book from first principles about a field. And we wanted our book to last longer than like 5 seconds, which if you include technology in a book, that's about how long you can expect your book to last, because expiration dates are very short with technology. That's how it is. So my recommendation when you're learning any topic is you got to learn the fundamentals, right? If you're learning math, you're not just going to jump in and learn calculus. Like you got to learn, the basics, right? Algebra is good. Arithmetic, you need to know arithmetic before you do algebra and so forth. So I think data engineering is very foundational in that sense too. But you have to apply it. You have to apply this knowledge. And that's where I'd say learn the basics, right? The basics to me and tool-wise, there's two ways to look at this. You have languages and you have tools in which you can use those languages. Right now, SQL or SQL, it's table stakes. If you're working with databases, if you're a data engineer, I suspect you're going to work with databases. So learn the ins and outs of SQL or SQL, depending on people say it different ways. I say SQL. A really good resource I give so I teach an advanced SQL class at the University of Utah. The prerequisite I give them is you at least have to be able to know something like SQL Bolt, which is just a website. Go to SQLBolt, BOLT.com. There's a lot of free exercises there. I think that at least gives you a very good sense of the basics. Like these are the table stakes things that you should know. If you know that, move on to more complex topics. So then there's Python. Obviously, that's the top language in the world right now. It's funny. I remember co-founded a Python meetup way back in 2013, and back then Python was actually not the cool language to learn. I remember people saying that Python was a waste of your time, stupid. Real men learn Java or C#. And so it's like, yeah, I guess I'm not a real man. Have a nice day. I think, and then Python obviously took off, right? So, but Python's one of those languages I'd say at least know the basics, go through the documentation. I think Python's documentation is really, really good for learning the basics of the language. They do a very good job at explaining concepts. Get good at just, especially if you're working with data, you got to learn things like how to manipulate data, right? This entails mastering lists, dictionaries, all the filtering and mapping operations. Some Pythonese will say filter and maps an anti-pattern. Some people like lambdas, some people hate them. Some people like list comprehension, some people hate them. I would say just know all the above. You're going to encounter them, and from there, it's like pick a problem you want to solve. Right. Once you have SQL and Python, you can learn tools like Spark. You can learn polars, pandas, whatever. But like, if you don't understand those two languages, I would say you're kind of at a huge disadvantage because then you're just sort of wrapping your mental framework around a tool and not necessarily the primitive. So I've always been a first principles kind of guy, right? So that's how I'm built. But good luck. Might be worth having maybe also do an AMA on just getting into data engineering at some point. Rahul, yes, the hackathon information will be shared today on a World Wide Web page. Yes, the information will be there. But the gist of it is, it starts Friday morning, my time, Mountain Time, ends Sunday mid-morning, Mountain Time, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Unhinged AI vibe coding is the name of the game. So no, practical stuff needs to be built. We're talking about just build the stupidest app you could think of. You'll be judged on that accordingly. Just how much fun can you have, right? Or how much pain can you inflict on other people with your app? That's also a thing. To do through hell, it says schema one big table as sort of human practice for the idea of match for the customer and product, attaching facts, just orders. Is a concept that makes sense, even though the implementation of surrogate key. I'm not quite sure about your question. If you could maybe rephrase it, there's a lot here, and the scroll kind of sucks on um, uh, Substack. Like I literally can't read what you said; it's too long and so forth. But who else is here? Maddie, what's up? How you doing, my man? If you're not following Maddie, you should go follow him. He's does a lot of really cool content, mostly around DuckDB because he works at MotherDuck, right? But he's also just a cool dude. I remember one time we did a nice podcast episode interview along some river in Berlin. It was a lot of fun. Drinking beers, making podcasts. That's what it's all about, really. That's life. But yeah, ask me anything. Ask questions here. I wish I could read Suhail's question, but there's a lot to it. And yeah, if you can. So I would say no. Okay, so is star schema dead? As many subset articles advocate, absolutely not. I think anyone who's giving you this advice should be fired from the field immediately. Like they don't know what the hell they're talking about. It's anytime, this is a general thing, but anytime somebody says something's dead, I always have to say that it's a matter of your situation, right? So people who talk in absolute terms, um, they do this in a lot of ways to rage bait people, or they just don't know what the hell they're talking about, which is because I see some of these articles and I'm like, yeah, for your situation, that's great, right? So there's a recent series of 2 articles about why slowly changing dimensions weren't needed, for some particular use case. And yeah, for that use case, well, there's a lot of data and making the updates or, to a table is going to be too costly, then yeah, you should find a different approach. But I would say for anything in a field, right? Like you need to know the fundamentals and start. If you're talking about data modeling, how I would approach data modeling. Hey, writing a book on it, by the way, it'll be out early next year. Data modeling. Why should you understand the basics of data modeling, right? To me, some of the basics when we're talking about the application of data modeling to certain approaches is, you need to know normalization, right? So how do you break apart your data into something where you've removed duplicates, redundancies, dependencies? So I would say understand normalization backwards and forwards. Once you understand how normalization works, then we can have an intelligent conversation on things like star schemas, right? So this is about denormalizing your data. Now, of course, some people would say the star schema is actually like a fact table could be third normal form. Perhaps it is, but if you know what third normal form is, maybe we can have that discussion. But no matter what, right? The argument's actually is funny when the star schema came out, and it's actually Mark Demarest that came up with the star schema, not Ralph Kimball. Star schema was first mentioned, I believe, in 1993, and then Kimball took that as kind of more kind of multi-dimensional data modeling is what it was called back in the day, in the 90s. But the notion is for analytics, right? Well, instead of normalizing things into highly discrete, and very clean tables, right? And keep in mind, remember, normalization is nothing more than the application of set theory and first order predicate logic, which if you've taken basic math, you should know these things, right? So if you know what a set is, and if you know, um, about constraints, about dependencies, then you understand normalization. But this, multi-dimensional modeling, or dimensional modeling, as it was later called, was really an attempt to make analysis simple, right? So why is it that if we have highly normalized data, it's great if you understand the database structure. So it's great for DBA, but the argument was, well, analysts have a hard time dealing with this. The business has a hard time understanding this data. So let's group this into things where it's a bit more understandable, right? So star schema is simply, let's put our numbers, i.e., you know, I guess the events, so to speak, into one table, and let's surround those events with a corresponding associated data that describes those events, right? So if you have a table that has orders, maybe your grain is at the order item level and you have associated data, well, that's great, right? And then you could have things like customer ID associated with it off to one side, and um, you know, shipping or whatever. But again, that table, it's at the order level, but not the order item level, right? And so here's where you need to start thinking about grains. One of the fundamentals of data modeling, right? Is what grain are you at? I just did a YouTube short about this the other day, but grain would represent the lowest level of detail for each row in a table, right? So order is great, but order might be too high level. Maybe you want to go to order item, in which you describe every item in that order event, right? And then that takes on a fundamentally different, um, uh, you know, nature, because now you have different tables. You have products that can associate with each order item. Whereas if you have just an order, might not be a lot harder to have a product associated with it, because, well, what is an order? Is an aggregation of products. And so it's just star schema dead. I don't think so. I think it's still very much alive. And again, this is all situation dependent. There's millions of companies out there that use star schemas, right? And there's a handful of companies out there that are too, their data situation is too complex. Whether it's because there's too much data arriving at once, the data arrives too quickly, and many other reasons, right? Where star schema might not be appropriate, but you need to understand these concepts, understand the big ideas of data modeling, understand the fundamentals of data modeling, and then you can make a decision. Then you can say something is dead for your situation, right? But I wouldn't go out and proclaim anything's dead or alive. Especially in our industry, things have an interesting way of recycling themselves. And right when you think something's gone, it comes back. I always view things as pendulums. But anyone who's writing these articles about star schemas are dead, I think they're fucking idiots. It's just they don't know what they're talking about. Or they're trying to rage bait people, right? So, um, yeah. So anyway, that's that. Let me see here. God, I hate subset questions because I cannot read anything. Something about the market situation with newcomers entering the industry without those many years of experience in DE. Well, I mean, the market fundamentals for anybody right now, I think, is a bit iffy, right? If you don't have experience, and if you're a fresher or junior, the market is hard no matter what, for a lot of reasons. And so I think that's just sort of the name of the game. It sucks, but keep at it. That's all you can do. Sorry, I can only get to the last question here. Wait, Coursera class, dope. Thank you. Oh, hey, look at that. Maybe I can actually read questions here. If you know anyone that works at Substack, please tell them that I'd like the live chat, but it's can't really see any questions here. Let me see. Is the release date from upcoming data modeling first book around January 2026? Yeah, that's what I'm targeting. Probably late 2026. Or not late 2026. Early 2026. I'm guessing kind of probably end of January or sometime in February. But the first book's out. It was going to be one book, but now that book is like it's like 600, 700 pages. I don't feel like that's appropriate to publish, so I'm going to break it into two books. One is the fundamentals of data modeling. So this is actually approach agnostic too. So I'm not going to talk about things like star schema, normalization, all that stuff. Um, I'm going to allude to basically the basic ingredients of data modeling, but I'm going to save a lot of that for um, the applied parts will be book two, which will be sometimes out in hopefully 2026. The big question mark I have right now, and it might end up being three books, I don't know. But the biggest question mark I have is about AI, right? And how does AI impact data modeling? How does data modeling impact AI, right? And so I do not have answers to these questions. I don't think anyone has an answer to that question. So, if you're going to write about that particular topic, I would say, be very, it'll be out of date really soon. Just things are changing so fast in the field. So I figured like a book on fundamentals and a book on maybe more traditional approaches, that's not going away. That'll be around for a while. And so, yeah, but stay tuned. But the first edition of the book will be a first version of the book for book one, targeting January, Feb. So private group, I'll put another link here somewhere in the comments here, but I don't know. Or if somebody else can do it. Substack, I seem to be cursed. I can't seem to be able to post anything in my own chat here. So anyway, but yeah, can I suggest any end-to-end data engineering project for junior DE for his portfolio with messy data? There are multiple projects on YouTube, but they're not real world and has clean Kaggle data. I mean, that's sort of the curse of making any course right now is that, or giving anyone tutorials, or if you take tutorials, is not. I always like to give examples of starting off with clean data and being very kind to my students, I suppose, and giving them really messed up data sets. But that's the kind of guy that I am. So, but maybe one thing you could do is actually ask ChatGPT to create a tutorial for you. I think that might be a good idea. I've been actually talking to George Fraser about this the other day. He runs a Fivetran, and he's been teaching himself deep learning by going onto ChatGPT and just having ChatGPT explain it to him, right? And so I think that could be as good as any. I think um, a lot of the yeah, maybe try that out. I think that's a new way of learning things where you can say ChatGPT, I want to learn data engineering. I want you to give me some examples with messy data. I could turn this into, help me turn this into a portfolio project. I mean, that's probably how I would do it these days, actually. You could take my course on Coursera, but that does, at least to do the assignments, it does cost money. I would say if you want to pay the money, I guess the course is actually on deep learning AI now too, so you could take it there, but you still got to have to pay, right? Or just audit the class and not do the assignments. But I honestly think like, yeah, I would use one of the LLMs to teach you a lot of these concepts now, and just maybe even ask it like, yeah, I want to learn data engineering. What are the first things I need to learn? How would I learn it? Teach me some hands-on examples. Give me messy data. Give me messed up examples. I've never tried this, but I would love to see what people think about that suggestion. Might be kind of cool. I don't know. AI is getting really good at teaching. Which is one reason I'm trying to focus more on fundamentals and things that aren't going to change as much, and things that have a bit more stories behind it and real world experience. Because I think nowadays sort of the nature of a tutorial I think is going to change in general. Where I think going forward, AI is just going to do a lot of the heavy lifting, um, and I don't think it's pretty awesome. Um, but yeah. Let's see here. Questions, more questions. Yes, there's some questions about Discord. So, and people are asking for like private group. Um, you can go to practicaldatamodeling.substack.com and subscribe to my paid offerings if you'd like. So that's where you can get early access to draft chapters of the book. And I'm about to announce this too, but I'll give you a preview of what's happening with the um, with what's going on with that paid subscriber thing. Got a lot of paid members. It's awesome. Thank you. I gave quite a few people a really good discount around Black Friday of last year. Um, and so what I'm including in the membership for perpetuity is you'll get electronic copies of the book when they come out. No matter how many copies I have, that's included in the membership. I'm actually creating a data modeling course. And so that's going to be free to paid members as well. And I have about 3 or 4 other courses on the roadmap for next year, as well as books and other stuff. So all that's going to be included. I just want to add a lot of value to people and, thank them for subscribing, especially, taking a gamble on a book that wasn't quite out yet. I think the response has been overwhelmingly good. You get access, obviously, to the free chapters there. But, um, the sad thing is the book didn't come out on time, right? A lot of that's because it's a very difficult book to write, um, and especially right now. And so, I kind of personally, I felt like my book was going to become like GTA 6, where I just kept like punting the date into the future. But no, the first book will be out before GTA 6, but you're going to get a lot more. There's a course that'll be launched alongside the first book there. So, subscription to practical data modeling.substack.com. That's what I'm talking about, Siobhan there. What else we got here? Sort of discussions about learning with AI. Yeah, I think that that's definitely a good tool to use. I mean, George did make an interesting point though, where he said like, at a certain point, if you're trying to learn a topic, it'll just it might do some weird gaslighting for you. It'll just say, well, if you want to ask it like, well, why do you do such a thing, or why would you take this approach? Say, well, that's just how it is, you know. So it's what he's saying when he had chat with ChatGPT, but yeah. So anyway, so to recap for people who just got here, talked about the hackathon that starts Friday morning, Mountain Time, 9 a.m., I believe. I'll be posting a page about that in just a bit. It has all the details. Go over to the Practical Data Discord and sign up. Um, that's um, I think a pretty good way to start. And then, of course, um, get involved in the hackathon. Get involved in the community too. It's a great community. The hackathon is going to be a lot of fun. We're going to be doing unhinged AI vibe coding. Um, and then what comes next after that? We also talked about some tips on data engineering, data modeling. I just basically said like somebody asked if star schemas are dead. I said nah, it's silly. What else? Talked about practical data modeling, paid group. Somebody's actually asking, is the price of your subscription to Substack according to purchasing power parity? It might be costly for somebody in India. I need to go check, but feel free to message me. Always happy to help people out. If they need it. Obviously I can't afford to subsidize the entire Indian subcontinent, but I have had people abuse that though, so I'm very careful about who I extend favors to these days. I've just had too many people try and take advantage of it. So obviously a bit gun shy about that. But if you're, depending on the situation, I'm happy to help. I mean, I've been to India. I do understand the situation there. It's things are, you just don't make as much money there. So I know what it is. But yeah, so what else? I think it's about it. So I'm thinking about half hour here. Again, look forward to seeing you all in the Practical Data Discord group. I'll put a link to that in the page. I'll be posting today about the hackathon because I just joined the group. It's a lot of fun, right? I think if you wanted to, I think another question that comes up too is about how do I build my network? How do I build just my my group of friends, right? My group of peers. And I would say joining groups like my Discord group and others as well is a great place to start. You get to just meet a lot of people, get ideas from all over the world. I think that more than anything, get your name out there. And so, Jordan, what's up, dude? What events am I looking for in 2025 or 2026? Um, well, if you're talking about 2025, I'm going to be in Forward Data Conference in 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks. That's in Paris. So that's going to be dope. Then I'm going to be at reInvent right after that in Vegas. So that's AWS reInvent. And then I'm taking the rest of the year off, which sounds exciting, except that only means basically the last 3 weeks in January or December. And I'm already getting lots of speaking inquiries for 2026. And so if I looked at my list right now, there's like probably 20 events I've already been invited to for 2026 alone, which is bananas, right? So the question to me is, what's it worth to me at this point? Like, I mean, I've spoken at a lot of the big conferences around the world, and so it's a question of like, what do I want to get out of this, right? Because I got to be recording all these new courses and putting together more content. So part of me wonders, if I dial back the speaking, is that a bad thing? And probably not, actually. I mean, like I said, I've already kind of um, been there, done that with a lot of the big events. So, um, kind of is what it is. So, things like I would say, Big Data London is dope. I believe I'm back there already. Day to Day Texas is good, and Austin, that's end of January. What else? Data Council looks good. I've actually never been to that one. I could check that out. Yeah, there's like I said, there's like 20 events. I was writing it out yesterday. I was like, holy crap, that's a lot of events already. But most of these haven't been finalized, so I'm not going to say anything. But yeah, there's a lot of events. I'd be curious what events you guys are looking forward to as well, right? So I'm going to be doing lots more, virtual events too. I think we'll be hosting some conferences or creating some practical data conferences, for 2026 and beyond. I thought about doing an in-person one here in Salt Lake City because there's mountains and it'd be kind of fun to go ski. But I think that, um, it's a bit expensive. From what I can tell with conferences, it's like you dig a gigantic hole, and that's the money you just spent on the facility or whatever. And then you got to fill the hole back in. And then hope to God that you can have enough money at the end of the day to fill the hole and maybe have some dirt left on top, or that's your profit, right? So, Julia asks, "Are you going to do another special on your Substack?" I'm not sure what you mean by special. Maybe you can clarify. Um, yeah, need support for all the freshers in the world. Trust me, man. I mean, I'm empathetic to it. I'm doing the best I can to help, the new generation of data engineers, thrive and flourish. And that's one reason, I get, I give away a lot of my content, right? I think that, the content that I do provide, hopefully it helps, a lot of the people, especially those getting started out. I understand that right now, especially, the world is just it's a different place than it used to be. The job market's tough for anybody around the world right now. I don't really care like what skill level you're at. I know seniors, that are um, going like they're having trouble right now finding work. I know some people that I've worked with in past jobs, these people have 10, 15, 20 years experience. It's sad. Like some of them have been posting on LinkedIn that they're homeless. That sucks. That sucks. I know these people. And it pains me to read stuff like that, but that's reality right now, especially in America. It's fucked. Julia asked, a discount like I did for Black Friday last time that I mentioned. I don't know because I said that was the only time last year was I said it was the only time I was going to be doing a discount. And so I think if I'm going to be true to my word, then I'm going to have to honor that. That said, actually, I'm going to be raising prices for the community or for the Discord for the practical data modeling Substack. Sorry, old man disease. So yeah, prices are going to be increasing, beginning of next year. So I would say, that's just to represent, that there's a lot more content that's coming out. A lot of stuff that's already being worked on and will be out. And these are not going to be GTA 6. These are real things. So that just helps me. I think, uh, it helps me with my ability to focus heads down on this kind of stuff, right? Because otherwise, I got to be out on tour, got to be out doing other stuff, and that takes away from the time I could be spending, building more quality educational resources. And I think for the freshers out there too, there's going to be a lot more free content, especially on YouTube. And I want to, definitely help people like that. But just understand, that there is a time when I do need to charge for things. That is called running a business. Um, and since I don't have a day job, that's is what it is. So some people diss me because I have the goal to actually like charge for books and courses. And I'm like, fuck you if you're gonna say that. Go find something else to do. Everyone has to make a living, right? Like you're not gonna go work for free. I do give, I would say 95% or more for free. So it's like, so I think any criticism of that is a bit unwarranted and uh, pretty dumb, actually. Somebody asked, like, why is the job market tough for seniors right now? They bring a lot to the table, right? Yeah, they do, but it's also, they're expensive, right? And so, um, and right now, yeah, somebody pointed out the demand supply gap. It's a real thing. Like, there's a huge supply of people on the benches right now, very skilled, very talented, great resumes, if you talk to recruiters right now, they've never seen it like this, right? They've never seen such a situation where no matter what field you're in, it could be marketing, sales, legal, tech, whatever. But it doesn't seem to matter what field you're in. Like there are very experienced people with great resumes, all of whom are looking for work. So you got your pick right now. And I think that's also why it's tough. Where yeah, you're a senior, but you're competing against a lot of other seniors, and you throw juniors into the mix, and God help you, like that sucks. It's just um yeah, it's just, that it's just kind of the name of the game. It sucks, but that's just the market dynamics right now, supply and demand, right? There's a big, and the thing is, we'll see what happens with AI. I think that's a big one, right? I think the job cuts you're seeing right now is more a lot of companies are probably seeing a downturn in the economy coming, and they want to protect against that. That's a really rational move. Some countries have a safety net where if you're laid off from your job, you get at least some government assistance. In the U.S., well, if you saw our latest government shutdown, it doesn't seem to give a shit at all about even our poorest. So it's tough. Like I said, I know people I've worked with, people who are friends who are now homeless, seniors. That's tough. Never seen that before. Sucks. Riordan says, honestly, raising prices makes a ton of sense. I have a ton of content on Substack, and people who buy a subscription get instant value access to all. Yeah, exactly. Like, dude, like I said, 90+% of everything I do is free. And I think, and based on the reactions to it, a lot of people like it, right? So I'm not going to sit there, and um, yes, rising prices makes a lot of sense. Plus, there's a ton of stuff coming down the pipe. Like I said, lots and lots, and it's a lot of effort to write. Yeah, Jordan knows this. Again, hit up Jordan. He's Jordan Ivanov. He's got a great Substack, great content creator, and just I think a great person too. I've hung out with him in London. Super nice guy. Yeah, Sravan says an overhang from the pandemic era. Absolutely, there's a big factor in it. There's a ton of overhiring. I remember, talking to some people at Google, and they were bragging about how they were hiring, 1,000, 2,000 people a week. I think the number was. Don't quote me on that, but it was a lot, right? And it was this game amongst all the big tech companies to see who could hire the most people in the shortest amount of time. And now those same companies are just ruthlessly laying off people. Ruthlessly. And what you're seeing too, I think the big change now is at least what they're saying, right? And, I don't think the numbers really support this just yet, but these companies are saying, well, we want to do away with middle management too, right? So, we want to just make the individual contributors more lean and nimble and have them, make the decisions and, eventually have them, be managers for AI, right? Because that makes some sense. If you have an individual contributor, they probably know more about their specific job and their domain than probably their boss, because the boss is in meetings all day, which is the fountain of productivity. Kidding, but that's just kind of the reality of it. Where sorry, click my camera off here. So that's just So I do think that that's going to be the thing where the traditional career path for a lot of engineers. You start out as a fresher, you sort of. Although during COVID, it was funny because a couple years experience back in the day would mean, now you might be mid-level, right? But I saw people during the COVID era go from 2 years experience to senior in 2 years. I'm like, that's stupid. Like that's I think just title inflation. Like there's no way in 2 years you're going to be because senior to me also indicates it's not just you're able to pass certain certifications or, check the boxes, but you just have this you start developing an intuition and sort of a sixth sense about how things work in the world, how things work in your business, in your domain, in your practice, right? And that only comes just through time. And you start developing, kind of what I describe as seeing behind walls, right? Where at a certain point you just sort of know, right? And you have a good gut about how things work. But that to me is a good senior. And you also, I think seniors are really good at asking the question, do we need to even do this at all? Right. Or, or something like that. Like basically taking the lazy approach versus I think the fresher, the junior wants to jump head first, do all the things. The seniors, once you get to that point, you've developed enough muscle memory where, sometimes the best solution is not to do something. Sometimes the best solution is to take a very simple approach. Sometimes the best solution is actually just go talk to somebody and ask them, is this what you're asking for? Right. But these are the things that come with time. You don't develop this sense about you in even a couple years. You just don't. I you know, been around the block enough. So anyway, cool. Any more questions there? I need to go cut out, get back to work. But no, great, cool. So anyway, stay tuned for more details on the hackathon dropping today. Thanks to everybody who showed up. Like it's awesome to see everybody here, and look forward to doing more of these Substack lives. I'll actually be doing um, uh, yeah, asking why is the biggest difference between a senior and a junior. Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Yeah, exactly. If you understand the why you're doing something, then you can figure out the what and the how, right? So, and actually on that note too, because I love tirades, tangents. When you're a boss, right, and you're working with other people and you're managing the work, the sign to me that you're an enlightened manager or leader is when you can tell somebody what needs to get done, but you give them the liberty to figure out how to get it done. Because you're fostering their ability to grow at that point, right? You should also give them a why, a very explicit why about why we're doing this and what needs to get done. Let them figure out how to do it. That's how the people under you grow. That's how they become, more capable, mid-level, senior, and beyond. So, posing, whatever. Anyway, cool. Well, anyway, I got to go. But thanks everybody. I'll probably do another one of these next week or maybe the week after. And my travels, I'm not sure, but I like to do this kind of randomly spur of the moment. It really excites me to see how many people show up to this. But anyway, go to Practical Data Discord, sign up. Details will be posted soon. Take care. Bye.